Hello and welcome to the Queen's Couch Podcast with our amazing host, Dr. Tanika Victoria. She curates a space for women where all women are encouraged to collaborate and do not collide. Join us on the couch tonight. Hello, hello, everyone. You are on the Queen's Couch with Dr. Taniko tonight and Heather Singleton. We want to thank our sponsors tonight. Our sponsor for tonight is T Victoria and Company, and she has a curated box company and also specializes in holiday decor. So if you're looking for that special gift, contact T Victoria and Company and she will make sure that you have a luxury experience. She believes that luxury is more than just an expensive gift. It is a lifestyle. So thank you tonight for our sponsor, T Victoria and Company. Thank you so much. We are excited tonight to have you all on the Queen's Couch. And I'm excited about my guests. Hello, hello. How are you on tonight, Miss Heather? How are you?
I am
I am
great,
great,
Tanika. Thank you so much
Tanika.
for
Thank you
having
so
me.
much
How are
for having me.
you?
How are you? I'm wonderful. Thank you for being here on tonight. I'm excited. We have two streams going at one time. We have Facebook and we also have our YouTube stream. So I'll be jumping in on both, saying hello and how are you. But tell everyone about yourself on tonight, Heather. Who is Miss Heather Singleton?
I
Well,
am
I am
very
very
newly
newly
36 years
36
old,
years old,
and
and
I
I
am a
am
native
a
of
native of
Charleston, South
Charleston, South
Carolina. I
Carolina.
am
I
a
am a
project
project
manager who
manager who
specializes
specializes
in
in
communications project
communications project
management
management
and
and
brand and
brand
fundraising
and fundraising
strategy
strategy
and public
and public
speaking, which is
speaking,
one of
which
my
is one of
favorite
my
things
favorite
to
things
do.
to do.
I
I
am
am
a
a
Charleston girl
Charleston
through and
girl through and
through. I've been
through.
living in
I've been living in
Columbia
Columbia
roughly for
roughly for
about
about
16,
16,
17 years now.
17 years now. Okay,
So
all right.
I
I
am
am
charismatic.
charismatic.
I
I
am
am
articulate.
articulate.
I
I
am
am
God
God
fearing, and
fearing,
I
and
am
I
Heather.
am Heather. All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Heather, for being on with us tonight. So, listen, tonight we're talking all about relationships. It's all about relationships. And so, we are just going to dive in talking about self awareness in relationships. And one of my first questions to you is when you think about relationships, what is your most important relationship that you have outside of Christ? What is the most amazing relationship that you have in your life right now?
It's so
It's so
funny, and I
funny, and
try
I
not
try not
to. I
to.
am in
I
the
am in
habit
the
of
habit
trying
of
not
trying not
to.
to.
Hence the self
Hence the self
awareness,
awareness,
not just
not just
rely on
rely on
the
the
business
business
aspects of who I
aspects of
am,
who
because
I
that's
am,
only
because that's
one
only one
facet.
facet.
But as
But
an
as an
individual
individual
and
and
a
a
solopreneur, my
solopreneur, my
business is
business
everything.
is everything.
So for
So for
me, the most
me, the
important
most important
relationship that
relationship
I
that
have
I
right
have right
now, or
now, or
the one
the
that
one
really
that
is
really
just
is just
one I want to
one I
shout
want to shout
out,
out
is
is
the one that I
the
have
one
with
that I
my
have with
business
my business
bestie.
bestie.
Her name is
Her name
Deidre
is Deidre
Carter, and
Carter, and
she
she
is with
is
Prime
with Prime
Certification
Certification
Agency.
Agency.
And
And
we're in the
we're in the
throes of
throes
event
of event
season, and
season,
she
and
has
she
just
has just
been a
done a
sounding board.
sounding
And
board, and
that's something
that's
that's
something that's
important with
important with
relationships in
relationships in
general, not
general,
just
not
business
just business
relationships or
relationships
the
or the
romantic ones,
romantic
but
ones, but
all
all
relationships
relationships
need
need
that
that
balance where
balance
if
where
I'm
if I'm
unsure of
unsure of
myself,
myself,
or if
or if
I just
I
need an
need an
extra
extra
ear, or even an
ear, or
extra
even an
set of
extra set
hands,
of
that
hands,
there
that
is
there is
someone there
someone
who
there
I can lean on.
is amazing. That is amazing. And so as I think about relationships, I would probably say one of the most important relationships I have is actually with, I would say, two people right now. And I do have someone who is my business partner. We bounce things off, we do things together, and that is Dr. Cooper. We've been through a lot together, just in a short time, but just being able to have someone there that understands your creativity, that understands you as a person, and also how important your business is, and how important it is to have someone to understand that aspect of business. And I would probably have to say my second most important relationship that I have right now would be with one of my girlfriends, Princess, and she's Danielle. We've been friends for about 35 or 40 years now, since we were about 5 or 6. We grew up together. We always say we've been together from the sandbox. So when it comes down to anything in my business, anything in my personal life, she wants to see me grow. She wants to see me be the best version of me. She's probably the one person who can get me straight, tell me we'll get mad at each other, but the things that we go through are because of love. So those are, and definitely, two of the most important relationships that I have right now. And as I see people coming on, I want you to share your favorite relationships. What are some relationships that are so important to you? It could be the relationships with your girlfriend, it could be with a significant other. It could be with a lot of different people. One of the things, Heather, I read this article, and it said that in your 30s and 40s, as you get older, the relationships that matter to you most are sometimes the relationships you have with your girlfriends, because your girlfriends are often there for you through marriage, even if you have divorce. Sometimes they're there for death for you. So those relationships are the most important relationships that you do have, and they really say that it is your girlfriends, because they're kind of with you longer than anyone. Sometimes longer than your husbands, sometimes even longer than your children, because they've been in your life before your children. But those are the relationships that you tend to rely on as you enter those 30s and those 40s, as you start to settle down in life. So, how intentional are you about cultivating your relationships? So what is some things that you do to cultivate your relationships? I know we're on the go, we're busy, so how do you cultivate relationships with those people that mean the most to you? How do you do that?
So the way that I see relationships is that we're in a sort of partnership. And that relationship in that partnership may look a little different depending on the nature. So for me, with my closest girlfriends, and I can count them, I got, you got your inner court, your outer court, and your holies of holies, or your outer inner holies of holies. So I have friends that fit all the bills for that. And some of my friends, they're really great if I want to go grab a coffee or have lunch, if I need to talk about business woes, or if I just want to shoot the breeze and have a good kiki, because you got to have a good kiki. You need that balance. Everything in life can't be that serious. And then I have that inner circle who I know they're praying for me, they're with me, and I try to cultivate that relationship a little bit differently, because we have a greater intensity of that relationship. There's a greater intimacy in that relationship. They may know things about me that others may not know, but that holies of holies, like that core group of women or men, because sometimes people are able to have relationships that are co-ed and they be platonic. Those relationships, I think, are super important, because those are the people who get to see what some philosophers or some sociologists are now calling that fourth wall. And that takes, that comes from, like, in the acting world, and I'm gonna put on my thespian hat real quick, but in the acting world, whenever you are on set and you look at, like, the scenes, you'll see that there are three walls. There is the wall to your left, the one that's to your right, and the one that's straight ahead. But there's this imaginary fourth wall that comes in. And that fourth wall is where you would normally see your studio audience. And so they get to see that behind the scenes stuff. They get to see the stuff that the people out in the public don't get an opportunity to see. And so for me personally, my holies of holies, I'm making sure that we're checking in. Like, we got prayer groups, we've got all these tools that are necessary in order to keep ourselves engaged with each other. I have one group of girlfriends, shout out to the gold diggers, but my close friends who I went to college with, and we've been friends since college, and every week we take turns praying for each other or uplifting each other or sending each other inspirational messages, because I can't always talk to you, like I can't always jump on the phone. And been on the phone, and it's a quick check-in. And I am a huge fan when it comes to cultivating relationships. I love my car because it has the Bluetooth. And sometimes, if I just need to send a quick audio message, or if I need to give them a call while I'm traveling out of town, that's a way for me to engage with them. And I think that we have to find out what works for us based on where people are in our lives, because it's going to be different.
I think that is so amazing that you talk about that fourth wall, that wall that others don't see, and to be able to have someone that you trust with your vulnerability is very important, because everyone's talking about vulnerability and transparency as a badge of honor, but sometimes your vulnerability and your transparency really needs to be with people who can handle that, who can be able to appreciate that and still see you as the amazing woman you are, the amazing business person you are, because everyone has those moments where they just have to be vulnerable, that where they're not the perfect person, where they're not, you know, putting on for the camera, because sometimes when you're in the public eye, you have to sometimes go through a lot of things publicly, where or even just day to day at work. You have to kind of leave your personal things behind, but having that person that you can be vulnerable with is so very important. And so I definitely value cultivating relationships. And I think one of my friends, we've been friends for a long time, and we were really, really close at one time, and we still just kind of check in. But we said this year we're going to work on cultivating our relationship, really asking, how are you? How are you doing? How's things going on? Because I've given up my strong woman, my strong friend badge. And so I am telling people that you need to ask me how I'm doing. We're going to cultivate a mutual relationship where we're all both pouring into each other. And I'm not that strong friend you call where, when nobody else can handle it, she can. No, we're all going to be able to carry the load. We're all going to be able to walk together and not have the strong friend pull the load. We're all going to walk together and rise up. And so that's one of the things that we're working on this year in my relationships. No one's pulling you, because that can be hard for the strong person. But what I can do is give you a hand and say, hey, we can walk this thing out. We can get to the next step, so that we're all moving at our same pace and we don't lose track of each other. So that's one of the things that I'm working on in my girlfriend relationships. And so, listen, we're going to take a turn for a second.
Okay.
But I want to talk to my guests. I definitely want to tell you thank you for coming on tonight. Thank you for being on the Queen's Couch. We're talking about relationships tonight. So we just talked about our girlfriend relationships, and I think I did a poll this week that asked, what are some challenges in relationships? And so some of the answers were time. Some people said they want a relationship with the opposite sex, or just building relationships with a good girlfriends or community. And so we're going to switch on to romantic relationships, and we're going to talk about we're going to ask some fun questions. I think one of my favorite questions I love to ask, um, since we're talking about self-awareness, being aware of who we are, have you ever lost yourself in a relationship, and how did you find your way out? Have you ever lost yourself in a relationship? Now, if you've lost yourself in a relationship, man, listen, it can be something. But finding your way out in knowing who you are after that relationship is over, or even while you're in that relationship, and it gives you the courage to be like, you know what, this is for the birds. This is not for me. I am not her. You are not the one that is sent for me. So have you ever lost yourself? If you've ever lost yourself over here on YouTube and Facebook, if you've lost yourself before in a relationship, I want you to put a one in the chat, because we're going to spill the tea on how we lost ourselves in relationships. But thank God we found our way out. We're back. We're here.
I
I
I'm gonna put a
I'm
one
gonna put
in
a
the
one
chat.
in the chat.
Amen. That one's for me. Oh, apparently there's an echo with me. Okay. Sorry, guys. I might need to disconnect from my monitor. All right.
I think Tori said it was better. Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay. So, yes, the answer to your question is very much yes. There have been opportunities where I could have stayed truer to myself than I was. One of the things that you have to do, and I will preface in saying that it took coming out of relationships where I've lost myself to really see it. You know, hindsight really is 2020. So for me, I feel as though uh, it's easy to lose yourself in a relationship if you're not grounded. Being aware of who you are, what your boundaries are, what those yeses are, those nos are. If you are the type of person who needs a certain type of reassurance, then that's the reassurance that you need. Now, the other piece of that comes with knowing when to bend. We in society, we try to treat compromise like it's a bad word, when in actuality it's a real thing that needs to happen in every relationship of life, but specifically romantic relationships. I am an extrovert. Well, an ambivert. I think that's the new terminology. But I am an ambivert. Like, I can talk to a brick wall if I need to, but when I'm in the house, honey, I am closed. I'm laying down. I'm introverted 2.0. But if I were to date someone who was not on that same wavelength, they would need to be okay with the fact that I have to go outside and do all the things and be all the things to the people. But when I come home, I need to be able to relax, relate, and release and just be me, that fourth wall again. So with relationships, a lot of times we try to push ourselves, and we push ourselves to be something for someone who never even asked us to be that for them in the first place. But we put on this cloak of representation that says, I have to be what society says I need to be, as a girlfriend, as a wife, as a mom, as whatever that title is. When in actuality, you're still you. And a lot of times in relationships, in family, we lose ourselves. We forget who we are. We forget what's important to us. And for me, I have made that declaration that that's not going to be my story or my testimony anymore. I was once in an emotional abusive relationship, and it was my very first like relationship. And I just remember feeling like I had to dumb myself down a little bit, because this was a guy who was just very much about what I say goes, and he was not uplifting. And if that was someone who I had business with in the past, or they were a sibling or whoever, I would check them. But because of who I was supposed to be in that relationship, I didn't allow myself to stand up for myself. So I found myself changing some of my habits and my ways, and not necessarily for the good. It is easy to lose yourself if you aren't familiar with who you are in the first place. And if someone is not that match, then they are not that match. My lovely co-pastor says, shake the dust off your feet. From the she references that Bible story often, but shake the dust off your feet and keep it moving, because anybody that tries to alter who you are at your core, I'm not talking about like poor habits and those kinds of things. Like, no, we could all improve. None of us are perfection. But the thing that we have to keep in mind is who I am at my core, what my hard boundaries are, my hard no's are. Those are my hard no's. And if you can't get with that, then that's a you thing and not a me thing. And it's definitely no longer an us thing. So just understanding what is important to you, what your core is, that's going to make the difference in any relationship, but specifically a romantic one.
That is so true. I definitely I saw some people put in ones in the chat that they've lost themselves in a relationship. And it's so very easy to lose yourself in a relationship. I've lost myself in relationships where there's things about me that I changed. I wanted to dress how they wanted me to dress. Even my hairstyles, just the very things that I love. Like I'm a very dainty. I'm about decorum. I'm kind of over the top. I like things a certain way. And so I was beginning to feel bad because I like this extravagance about me. That's just who I am. I was like that as a little girl. I've always been that way. And so I was beginning to shift my personality just to be in a relationship. And so sometimes when that happens, you sometimes don't even know who you are when you've been in that relationship for so long. And it's just like you start thriving and competing to get them to see who you are as a person when you're trying to really figure out if that's even the person that you are. And so sometimes when I see 20-year-olds and I see them doing things, and what's so funny is we didn't have social media back then, but listen, if it was, we would have all been just the same way. People can say whatever they want to say. I have a lot of sympathy. My stuff just didn't make it to the book, didn't make it to the gram because we didn't
That
have the
part.
book or we didn't have the gram. Because if it was the gram or the book, I probably would have been blasting guys on Facebook too. I probably would have been putting receipts up too because guess what? We were calling putting on blast. So now there's just all these other avenues. And so I see myself sometimes. I'm like, boy, I'm so glad it wasn't Instagram or Facebook about 20 years ago because it really would have been, or even 10 years ago, it really would have been a tall tale of things that people would have saw about my life that, wouldn't have been favorable. So sometimes when you see that, you got to think, would I have done those things? And you probably would have if these avenues were available to you. So I had to really work hard to find out who I was. And one of the things I watched this sermon one time. It was I think about Bishop T.D. Jakes a long time ago, and he was talking about how you evolve through years of your life. And he said sometimes when you get ready to get into romantic relationships, you don't even know what you like sometimes. You don't even know the things that turn you on, that makes you tick, that makes you come alive, that makes the best come out of you. It could be you might like a person that is ambitious. And so even though you pick someone who's not, and you're wondering why you don't like that person or you're not attracted, because those aren't the things that helps to make you who you are. Because I'm a very goal driven person, I have to have an ambitious type of person in my life. I have to have a type of guy that is going to, when I tell him an idea, he is going to say three, four, five, six different ways that I can make this idea happen because I'm very creative. But before, I didn't know that about myself. So I kind of let them tell me, well, I don't think you need to do that. If nobody else is doing that, why you want to do that? So I lost out on a lot of things that I could have done earlier because I was so true to trying to be in a relationship instead of being in the relationship with myself and discovering and becoming aware of who I was as a woman. And so sometimes when we're in relationships and you're not happy, you're not fulfilled, sometimes it's because sometimes the person that you're with don't even know those are the things that are really who you are and what you like because you've conformed to being what they wanted you to be to get the bag. You know how they say they get the bag, you do whatever to get the guy. But then is that really who you are? You might dress up all the time, but that's really hard to keep up if you're really a homebody. If you don't like going out all the time, you're not spontaneous, and you're just kind of, hey, I'm an introvert, I'm calm, I like to be calm, I like a calm presence. If you're really not that, then why did you display yourself that way to get the bag. But when now that you got the bag, you don't want what's in the bag because it doesn't make you come alive. The relationship that's supposed to be mutual and you're building together, you can't because you're two different things. You really are a square that should have had something else, but then you pick something that didn't fit you just because maybe he looked good, or maybe he smelled good, or maybe you thought you had a good conversation one time, but you ended up forfeiting who you were as a person just for the bag. you know. And so I say that all the time. Where the bag at? But when you get the bag, do you want what's in the bag? Because maybe you got the wrong bag. So what do you think about that? What do you think about when women do whatever it takes to get the bag, but then they can't keep it up, and then they're mad at the bag? But were you are really being honest? Were you being forthcoming about who you really were, or were you changing who you were to get the bag? Just
So,
like me and you.
right.
Right.
So one
So
of
one
my
of my
exes has said to me one time that people in the first 6 months of a relationship are dating the representation of themselves. This is not often the core of who they are. We see sometimes, especially when you're looking at like storylines and movies and things like that, you'll see that they put on this facade like and this, I've got all of these accolades and all this stuff going on, and look at my car and look at my condo and all of this stuff. But when we really sit down and look at the list, like your pros and your cons, when you're thinking about entering into a relationship with someone, you've got to really take an intentional look. It's not about surface level, especially now. I can't speak for the 20 somethings, but honey, I am in my 30s. Okay. Um, I'm right bold 36 years old. And one thing about me is that I just don't have the time nor patience nor capacity to switch things up. What you see at this stage of my life is what you get. And I was watching a podcast once, and they said that uh, every 7 years or so, you go through some sort of transformation. Specifically, if you're in a relationship or anything like that, you're going to go through that transformation stage, because who I am at 13 is not who I am at 17. And who I am at 17 is not who I am at 30. And that's not who I'm going to be at 52. So we've got to understand that we're going to evolve. And so some of those surface level things, like being the girly to get the nails done and do all the things. Listen, let me tell you something. Because I'm going to keep it real. I'm very much I am a professional girly, but also two things can be true. I was not that girl that stayed at the nail shop like, twice a month, making sure that part of my life was on the up and up. I was plain Jane. And then I evolved because I realized, no, I actually hate getting my nails done, but I like the look of it. And I like the way that I look with it. It makes me feel better. It makes me present well. So for me, that's something that changed. We evolve, and you've got to be okay with that evolution. However, with that evolution, then comes that core. Yes, the surface level things might change, but who I am internally, who I am, my doubts and fears and all that stuff surrounds who I am as a person. And when I feel like certain things don't serve me, I move on. And that's the same thing in those relationships. Like when it's not serving you, move on. Because too many times we lose ourselves or we change ourselves for someone or something that is temporary and may or may not even be what you're called to.
That is so good. You're absolutely right. You just kind of change yourself. As you get older, you're just like, this is who I am. You're getting what you get. This is it. No time for the pretense, no time for the games, no time for just anything else. So I do want to stop and pause for a minute because listen, it is Heather's birthday. It is the birthday girl. It's her birthday. She looking like a present today. Listen, so we want to say happy birthday. We want to thank you for hanging out with us on tonight. And so we're excited about you hanging out with us on the Queen's Couch tonight. And listen, we definitely want to thank our sponsor for tonight. So our sponsor for tonight is T Victoria and Company. T Victoria and Company is a specialty gift and holiday decor styling business. She helps you find the exact present for your friends, your family, your husbands, that special someone, as well as she will style your home for the holidays. Here at T Victoria and Co, we believe that luxury is more than an expensive gift, it is a lifestyle. So if you're looking for a luxurious experience, check out T Victoria and Company. They are our sponsors for tonight, and it's Valentine's, so make sure you are getting those presents. She has amazing presents for Valentine's: wine bottle bouquets, personalized boxers, love boxes, all naughty and nice box, whatever you're fancy for Valentine's Day, T Victoria and Company has it for you. So don't forget to shop T Victoria and Company. She's our sponsor for tonight. And guess what? We're about to get back into it with my special guest on tonight, Miss Heather Singleton. We're talking about relationships. We've talked about our girlfriend relationships. We've talked about being in intimate relationships. But guess what? Now we're going to talk about, because you know this is a Christian podcast, and I have the question of the hour tonight. How do you feel the church has prepared us for relationships? Boy, we about to get into it. Go ahead and go. If you need your tea, go ahead and get your tea. If
So
you
much.
need your coffee, go ahead and get your coffee. Because we about to get right down dirty and raw with the situation. And I love, listen, I'm a church girl. I love the church. But I'm going to just go ahead and tell you, how has the church prepared you for relationships? My. If you think the church have prepared you for relationships, go ahead and put a one in the chat if you think they have. If you have not, go ahead and put a two. I think mine's going to be a two. If the church
Listen,
have prepared you for relationships, oh my.
so
We're
I must say, I'm going to preface and say the views that are expressed on the Queen's Couch are the views of Heather Singleton and Heather Singleton only. Okay, let's say that. Second disclaimer: I love my church. I love my pastors. They're amazing. I love them down. But the church culture as a whole has not done a great job of preparing singles for being in relationships. Like, I feel like there's a disconnect somewhere, and I don't know what it is. The only thing that I know for sure is that they tell you to be abstinent and not to let anybody take you from the house of God. Like, don't let anybody destroy you or distract you from your faith, being equally yoked, all the things. So when it comes to the church in general and the way that we approach relationships, I feel like there needs to be a little more reality in the talk, a reality in the conversation. We don't necessarily, as the church body, like to address the sticky stuff. We don't like to talk about the things that may be seen as controversial, specifically when it comes to dating. So we only know, hey, mind your bedroom manners, because the bed is undefiled for the married couples, all that good stuff. And then they tell us, the regular rigmarole. However, I don't know how to effectively listen to my partner. I don't know how to date and gather data. Like, yes, I know how to ask questions and figure out if somebody is that person for me, in the context of me being a woman, a Black woman, whatever that intersectionality is. But as a single Christian who is actively involved in a church, I don't necessarily believe that we get that opportunity to glean the way that we should be gleaning. I feel like churches don't want to talk about singles. And if they do talk about singles, then it's in condemnation. when I need you to tell me, okay, so I rededicated my life. I'm going to give you guys a timeline. I rededicated my life to Christ in April of 2008 after getting saved in '06. And between that time and currently, I have been in a couple of relationships. And I feel like there has often been a disconnect with my church back at home, my church here, wherever I am, when it comes to getting to know people and then marriage. So yes, we know how to get to know, but how can you tell me, how can you show me how to be an effective listener for my partner? And I use that in the generic sense of partnership, because you've got men and women who are a part of the Queen's Couch, who are a part of your audience. So I pose that question: how are you how are you showcasing love, not just that agape love, but even the philos love with those who you interact with? What does that look like? I'm gonna say something. The people might not like it.
Go ahead and say it, honey. You
I do
know.
not agree with everything that she does and who she is. I'm not one of those people who's like a celebrity worshiper or anything like that. But when I think about all the flack that Lori Harvey gets, I think about the fact that we we challenge young people in that 20 space, which by the way is probably the connection there as to why the church at large is hemorrhaging these 20 somethings and these young adults, because nobody's watching the baby. But at any rate, I'm gonna stay focused. She is in her 20s and she dates, and if it's not working, she moves on. Just because she dates someone, I preface this, saints of God, just because you date someone doesn't mean that that means that you're sleeping with them. But to date means that, like, that's data, that's getting to know, that's the collection of data. That's, like Biggie said, ask you what your interests are, who you be with, things that make you smile, what numbers to dial. Like, that's a real thing. He put it in a song, but it's real. And just because the opportunity to date multiple people and get to know multiple people, not necessarily sleep with, people label her. Listen, I am a firm believer that you are single until you are married, until you enter into covenant with God and that partner. For me, I feel like you should be getting to know people. What ends up happening is that we end up in these situationships, where we get involved with people and they may not have intentions of going to the next level with you. They may not have intentions of committing to you. So, how do you handle that? I feel like the message of old from the church has been, okay, you abstain till you get married, and then that's when you leave and cleave. Leave and cleave. So at that point, all right, I've become husband and wife, or one on one with another person. There are two of us becoming one. And from that perspective, you have that moment and then you're married. But nobody teaches you what dating looks like from a Christian perspective. I know what other people are doing. I know what people who don't believe like I believe are doing. But the fact of the matter is that 20 something, shoot, even some of the 30 something, I feel like there's that disconnect there with the church, because nobody's giving instruction or guidance. They're young adults, but their frontal cortex. I'm not a scientist or anything. That frontal cortex and all that stuff ain't developed yet, not till 25. So they're still making mistakes. They're still, learning how to navigate this world. And they need that guidance. But I don't know what to do if you don't tell me what to do. Experience is the best teacher. But wouldn't it be nice if, instead of having to live through heartache and toil and negative experiences, if somebody gives you a heads up in advance, if somebody is willing to sit down and be like, all right, I'm gonna keep it real with you, young sis. This is what these people is like. This is what these men is like. This is what these these ninjas is like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you have to be able to have that real conversation, especially with this generation, because they can spot inauthenticity a lot quicker than we have always been able to as the 30 somethings and 40 somethings. So if you're not going to be real with them, then they're not going to want it. And if I am trying to get to where you are, where I've been married for 40 years or 20 years or even 10 years, then I need you to give me that understanding. Also, can I just say this? I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna hurt some feelings, but it is what it is.
Go ahead and
Um,
say it. Act up. This the Queen's
two
couch,
things.
honey.
Okay, I'm on the couch, baby, with my teacup. Okay, so we as a saved kingdom society have got to stop bashing those who have had premarital sex. And I say that because there's now, therefore, no condemnation. Yes, you should be chaste and all the good things. However, there are some people, and I noticed this. I noticed this because I was one of them at one point. There are some people who get married. They may get married young, or they get married and they forget what used to be done, and instead of in love and in kindness and giving a heads up of, hey, you should probably save this until you're married, we get, oh, you don't need to be doing it, in the finger wagging. But you got saved after you were married, or you walked in that godly manner after you were married. But little do we remember where we were before that. It's so easy to throw that stone at someone else when nobody's paying attention to what you have done. But again, there's therefore no condemnation. But we as the church, we've got to do a better job of that. Like, I'm gonna tell you when you're wrong, but I'm gonna do it in love. And that's just where we are. So church, we got to come better, because we are losing these young folks.
That that is so true. You couldn't have said it better. I couldn't have said it better myself. I do feel that I love the church. I love the church. I'm a church girl, but I don't feel like we do a good job of preparing individuals for marriage. And I always tell people, now this is me, the thing, this ain't nowhere in the Bible, but this is what I'm about to tell. This is what I tell girls. When you think that your vagina is the most prized possession that you have as a woman, we have a problem. You have a mind. They tell you not to give the man your body, but you can give him everything you have except for your body, and there's nothing left of you. So your vagina is not the most important thing you have. Your ability to love, create, take something and make nothing. Your mind, your creativity, your ability to help bring out the best in the individual. I've seen women, I've seen women that have taken a man that was downright homeless. You hear me? Done helped this man start a business. Done did everything for this man. Done gave everything to this man. Okay? And he just walked away. Now they may not have been giving him, they may have slipped the headsets, but I don't think they did. But they've given him everything. Everything that God placed in you. You're not just a reproductive being. You're not just here to give a man pleasure. You're here as a person. And so if you don't get nothing else from this podcast tonight, if you are a woman, you're more than your vagina. You're more than sex. So we need to stop telling women more than just stop saving yourself to marriage. Stop saving all your prayers for this man. You covering this man. You don't let him. You having these intimate conversations. Now I am a firm believer. You should not, unless you like engage or courting, should be having intimate spiritual conversations with men and building those intimate bonds spiritually, because you're going to get a soul tie out of this universe. And I'm telling you, that's how you get them. Not just sex, okay? You can
Right,
get
right.
soul ties in other ways, besides sex. And that's what people tell you all these years. But in my 48 years of living, and I had some sex when I was saved and not. And the times I got soul ties was from intimate conversation and spiritual connection. It was not from sex most of the time, these that I got it from. Now you can get it from sex, but you can really get it from intimacy. That's how
Yeah,
you
where
really get a
it's
soul
intimate
tie.
to me. Yeah, yeah.
You get a soul tie because of intimacy, because you're interwoven your spirit and your soul. I know a lot of people told you that, and it might be true, but I'm gonna bust your bubble tonight. I mean, because that's what happens. That so don't be right here praying with this man, because it's here. When you pray with this man, you can be in that bed with that man because y'all don't connect. Don't play these games like y'all praying. Listen, sis, I done been there. Okay, I'm telling you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. There is more to a woman than just you abstaining in relationships. You need to know where you're going. So you don't need to be having these deep conversations with men. You don't need to be sharing your heart, taking in his dreams and trying to make them come to life. That's something that is reserved for your husband. God gave you these things, these creativities, these treasures that you have in you because he gave them to you for your partner. And sometimes you give a man all these things, you give him all of you, and you're more than just sex. Okay? So we're going that's the one thing I want the church to stop telling everybody. And stop telling these women you got to cook to get a husband. I stop that foolery too. Now I can cook and I love to cook. But if you think I'm about to be testing out whether I'm a cook for you to marry me, negative. Now you're gonna know I can't cook.
Right,
But what I won't be cooking, what I won't be doing is being a housekeeper. Because they tell you gotta cook. They tell you, you're not a housekeeper and a sex worker. And I want the church to stop it. Now that's Tanico Victoria. The church needs to stop making us housekeepers and sex workers. Because in the Bible, that's not what the women were. They had maids. Sometimes they probably wouldn't sleep with their husband. That's why they had concubines.
yeah, yeah.
So we're not a sex worker and we're not a maid. We are women of God that God created with gift, talents, abilities, and all the things to be in a covenant relationship with someone. But we got to know how to navigate that. And because we get so much hurt, we go into trauma. And so we don't know how to have a healthy relationship. We don't know how to have healthy conversations with men. We don't even know how to submit because we feel like I, it's you being weak or you're docile or someone's taking everything from you.
Yeah,
And so I'm
yeah.
learning that I'm following this femininity coach that I follow. And she says femininity is strength and grace together. And so but you can only do that when you feel comfortable and when you're healed because because you're only learning that you need to abstain from sex and you need to submit, but you need to do a lot of other things in a relationship too. And so I really wish the church will have like candid conversations about what it takes in relationships. How sometimes you have to be quiet. You have to realize if you're a fixer, sometimes you can't fix everything. If you're a boss on your job, guess what? You ain't the boss at home. So you got to learn how to switch codes. You know how you switch when you be with your girls, you be hood, yeah. Oh. And then you can be like, well, hello, how are you? When you get home, you might be the boss telling everybody what to do. But at home, you're not going to be telling your husband everything to do because he's the head. But we need
Right,
to have
right.
real conversations about that. Because sometimes when you've been single for a while and you've been running your house and running it like you're supposed to be, it's hard for you to switch over. So having those conversations with singles will help them coming in your office 6 months later saying, I want to throw the bag back. I want to throw the whole marriage away. Because you didn't prepare them for this.
No, no.
We didn't prepare us for conversation. You didn't prepare us when who's going to make the final decision
Mm-hmm.
when you and your husband or your partner have a disagreement and who's going to make the final decision and it might not be the decision that you make. How you gonna live with that? How you gonna work with that? What you gonna do with that? Especially when you've been single most of your life. When you every decision you make, you talk to the Lord, you and the Lord, hey, we gonna get it together. But this time you got a husband. So that's hard. That is one of the hardest things for women to do is submit. They tell you, okay, submit, but how? What does that look like?
We need
We need
practicality.
practicality.
We need
We need
practical
practical
steps.
steps.
That's what
That's what
I'm going
I'm
to
going to
need.
need.
I know
I
me.
know me.
You're talking
You talk.
self-awareness, right? I know me. I need you to tell me exactly how you want me to do a certain thing. Unless it's my zone of genius and zone of excellence, I can kind of navigate. But if there is something that I am doing on your behalf or for you or to serve you or be of service, and that's what submission is, not necessarily just like being docility. Like we don't you don't God didn't call you to be docile, called you to be meek and inherit the earth and all that good stuff. But he didn't call us to not be bold. He didn't call us to not have control over our emotions. He didn't call us for that. But he did call us for certain things that are going to help us in our marriages and in our relationships. But I got to know what that is, because being in my now late 30s, I feel like everything that I picked up came from outside sources, not necessarily like anything that's, evil or anything, but people and things and entities and content that is not directly tied to the church at large. And for me, I need you to tell me how to do the thing. You got to tell me. So if you like, I'll give you an instance. I know myself. I know I got a smart mouth. I know I'm sarcastic. Ooh. But I don't have any tangible steps that have ever taught me before a certain age in my past life. I have not had tangible steps that have taught me how to yield, how to hold up and wait a minute, hold up. Like you need better understanding, how to ask for clarity. And in doing that work within myself, I realized that intense sarcasm is a defense mechanism. It's a defense mechanism because that sarcasm helps to shield how I'm really feeling about something. And if I can put this joke or this piece of sarcasm in between my actual feeling and the person who I'm supposed to be expressing this feeling toward, then it cushions the blow. But really, it masks it, because we've got to get to the root of the thing. But if nobody tells us how to navigate it and how to get to that root, we're really just figuring it out. And that's what life is. I mean, I feel like the church at large does a great job of telling us, okay, like these are the steps, these are things that you should be doing, right? We want to date and then get married and then have kids and live happily ever after. And that is great. But real life is real life. Who you are and whose you are. Because let me tell you something. Nothing catches God by surprise. He knows who we are. He knows his child will touch in the head. He know. He know. I got some stuff to work out. But in knowing that, he's not going to give me someone who would not be able to help me navigate that myself. And that's where the church comes in, though, because if we are the church, but we are still the untaught, okay, we got to learn these lessons. I need you to tell me what scripture tells me I shouldn't be upset with this man and cuss him out. I need what scripture is going to tell me how to navigate paying these bills as a couple. I need scripture that's going to tell me specifically what I need to do to solve problems in that marriage. So for me, I happen to go to an amazing church where we do have some conversations about relationships. But some of those things that I need, the meatier conversations that are going to give me those instructions, I do have to go to some of my favorite podcasters who are relationship experts or they've been around the block or two. I'm a big fan of Kev on Stage and Mrs. Kev on Stage. I love DeVal and Kadeen Ellis. Like, so I absorb a lot of their content because I need that perspective. And these are God-fearing couples, so I don't feel any type of way because I know they have that relationship with God, and I know that they're not going to say anything that is outside of the will. If it is outside of the will, I have discernment from the teachings of the church to know, okay, that don't work for me. But you got to be able to be real and say, first, if you need help, holla help. And honey, these babies need help.
This has been an amazing conversation. Listen, we are getting ready to wrap up, but we're not going to wrap up without playing a game. I love games.
Okay.
So I'm going to say, when I say one word, tell me what comes to mind. Listen, I'm excited. Thank you so much for hanging out with us on the couch tonight. We're going to play this game before Miss Heather Singleton leaves us tonight. So when I say one word, tell me what comes to mind. When I say the word love, what comes to mind?
I'm a church girl. So when you said love, I said a word that comes and goes.
All right, a word that comes and goes. When you think of soft girl era, what do you think of?
Rose gold and the feeling that it gives you, like this warmth, this girliness, this um feminine energy.
All right, when you hear the word submission, what do you think about?
A term paper.
And last but not least, when you think about toxic trait, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Red flags.
Red. Red flags. Listen, thank you so much, Heather, for being my guest tonight. Thank you for hanging out for your birthday. Happy birthday. Thank you so much. Thank you to you, the guests, for hanging out with us tonight. Listen, I'm going to tell you, our next podcast will be on 222. And that topic will be Queens, where the money at. And we're going to talk all things wealth, investments, because guess what? Black girls gonna get to this money, honey, and that's what we're gonna be talking about. But I want to thank you tonight for being on the Queen's Couch on tonight. Thank you for rocking with us. Thank you for hanging with us. And remember, the Queen's Couch is the place where queens collaborate and they do not collide. So listen, thank you so much, Heather, for being with us tonight. And guess what? We'll catch you. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Listen, so you'll know when the Queen's Couch is going live. We go live every other Thursday, and I might have a surprise for you in March. We might go live every single week. Guess what? But I'm excited about it. But thank you tonight, Heather, for dropping some amazing knowledge on us tonight. Thank you so much to everyone that has been participating. You had some happy birthdays. We had some.
Thank y'all, Toya and Ernisha.
Yes, you have some happy birthdays out there. So thank you so much. I'm excited about you being with us here on tonight. Well, listen, we're about to sign off. Thank you so much. And you have been on the Queen's Couch. Have a good one. Hello and welcome to the Queen's Couch podcast with our amazing host, Dr. Tanika Victoria. She curates a space for women where all women are encouraged to collaborate and do not collide. Join us on the couch tonight.